Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our global community, and we might just find a real soldier's story from your location, too. In 1944, a group of local farmers in Hinds County, Mississippi, witnessed a spectacle that defied everything they knew about the war. Behind the double barbed wire of Camp Clinton, men who had once sat at the right hand of Hitler, the very elite of the German general, staff were no longer commanding divisions across the steppes of Russia or the deserts of Africa. Instead, they were on their hands and knees, covered in the thick red clay of the American South. These high-ranking prisoners, including the formidable General Hans-Jürgen von Arnim, were being forced to build a map. But this wasn't just a tactical drawing on paper. It was a massive 200-acre concrete and earth model of the entire Mississippi River Basin. Why? Would the United States Army entrust its most sensitive hydrological secrets to its most dangerous enemies? Today on WW2 Tales, we dive into the 80-year secret of the German generals who traded their iron crosses for shovels to save the American heartland. Camp Clinton was never intended for the average foot soldier. It was a facility reserved for the big fish, the high-ranking officers captured during the collapse of the Africa Corps. When these men first stepped off the trains in Mississippi, they were met with a suffocating wall of heat and humidity that felt like a physical weight. They were paranoid, convinced they were being led to a secret execution site. However, what they found was a town that looked like a movie set, where the locals were more interested in their strange accents than in their military records. Yet for the generals, the boredom was more lethal than the heat. These were men trained in engineering, logistics, and complex mathematics. Sitting in a barrack was a slow death for their minds. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, facing a catastrophic flooding crisis that threatened the very survival of the American interior, saw an opportunity that would change military history. The project was an engineering impossibility. The goal was to create a functional hydraulic model of 1.25 million square miles of American territory. It had to include every bridge, every dam, and every tributary of the Mississippi River. The Army Corps realized that no American workforce could match the precision and ironclad discipline of the captured German engineers. It was a surreal sight. Generals who had once discussed panzers and blitzkrieg were now engaged in heated debates about the flow rate of the Ohio River and the silt deposits of the Missouri. They weren't just moving dirt. They were building a masterpiece of concrete. For the first time, these men felt a sense of purpose that didn't involve destruction. They spent 12 hours a day in the sun, meticulously molding the American landscape by hand, realizing that their work would protect the very families they had been sent to conquer. As the months passed, the line between guard and prisoner began to blur in the mud of Hinds County. The local Mississippi families, many of whom had sons fighting in the very countries these prisoners had come from, began to see the humanity beneath the uniforms. There are accounts of local women bringing fresh bread and produce to the gates, moved by the sight of these older men working so hard in the sun. In one remarkable instance, a German officer who had lost his family in the bombing of Hamburg found solace talking to an American soldier whose family lived just miles from the camp. They found a common enemy not in each other, but in the devastating floods that destroyed homes regardless of nationality. The general's map became a sanctuary of labor, a place where the ideology of the Third Reich was slowly buried under the reality of shared human struggle. When the war ended in 1945, the generals were repatriated to a Germany that lay in ruins. They left behind a gift that the United States would use for decades. The Mississippi River Basin Model was used by scientists to predict and prevent some of the worst floods in American history, saving thousands of lives and billions of dollars. Today, if you walk through the woods of Jackson, Mississippi, you will find the crumbling ruins of this concrete giant, now overgrown with vines and moss, a ghost of a war that found a strange resolution in the dirt. It stands as a testament that even the most bitter enemies can build something that survives the hatred of their time. If you are watching from Mississippi or have ever found a piece of history in your own backyard, tell us your story in the comments. Your engagement helps us keep these forgotten tales alive. Subscribe to WW2 Tales for more stories where the battlefield meets the human heart. Thanks for watching.